Good morning. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Tobias Gibson. I'm a political science professor and the chair of the social science division. I'd like to welcome all of you to the 2025 Hancock Symposium. A couple of things before we get started. The first is, could you please silence all of your electronics? Don't turn them off, because the next thing is that, as Dr. Glasgow said, we have a good problem, which is that somehow we've managed to run out of programs, which means that there are a lot of people in the room for what we expected. So thank you very much. Those of you who have to prove that you attended this, take a picture now. Or if you prefer, you can wait until Judge Mark Pfeiffer comes on stage. But either way, I think that either will serve as evidence. Okay. President Lofi, Provost Alinka, esteemed colleagues, students, members of the Board of Trustees, guests, and honored speakers. Good morning, and welcome to the 2025 Hancock Symposium at Westminster College, the 20th anniversary of this august event. I want to thank a few people who helped guide me and my thinking on the substance and on the speakers that we chose to invite to this symposium. Please join me in recognizing the contributions of the following committee members: Dr. Johanna Morrow, Dr. Natasha Sexton, Sarah Backer, Jada Barlow, Sophie Hudspeth, and Colton Goodwin. As well as two other previous members who are no longer with the college, Dr. Nate Leonard and Dr. Sarah Hairston. Thanks to the many others across campus, including IT, public relations, security, and countless others, both offices and individuals, who worked to make this event a success. I also want to recognize Dr. Derek Glasgow, the director of the Hancock Symposium. He has been invaluable throughout the planning of this event, from early brainstorming all the way up to the planning of tomorrow's Green Lecture and its reception. For the next 2 days, we will explore the promise, processes, and pitfalls of the pursuit of justice. This year's theme, Justice for All, with a question mark, allows us to dig deeply in theories and practices of justice and what it means and what it doesn't or shouldn't. The 2025 Hancock Symposium at Westminster College is designed to do at least 3 things. First, through the experiences and perspectives of our distinguished speakers, the symposium should offer a lens into not merely the idea of justice, but examples of justice in action. Second, the Hancock Symposium, though it includes many lawyers at various stages of their careers, moves beyond justice in the legal system. Attendees will learn about justice in education, at the breakfast table, in the technologies we embrace, and in the policies that we make. As Martha Nussbaum has noted, the point of a liberal arts education is to learn how to think critically and independently, and to develop a sense of empathy for others. As we face increasingly complex issues of justice, including waning trust in institutions, specifically legal institutions, Nussbaum's words are increasingly true and important. Third, and most importantly perhaps, this year's Hancock Symposium showcases the need to think creatively, independently, and with empathy about justice. Though in some ways justice and its realization is complex, at Westminster College, where we continue to teach and learn across academic disciplines, where we continue to ask hard questions, and where we continue to have students who are dedicated to live lives of success, significance, and service, we are energized by the quest for justice. It is no accident that many of our speakers are alumni of this college. Here I must make a confession. I intended to spend several hundred words talking about Aristotle, John Rawls, David Hume, Juan Fuller, H.L.A. Hart, and others. I planned to offer an introduction to the intertwined definitions and expectations that surround the rule of law and justice, and why each depends in part on the other. I have decided against this, for better or worse, and instead I've opted to offer a few thoughts about the importance of shared identity, and I hope to provide a basic framework of justice. The last week has seen a rise of fears stoked in this country. Without going too deeply into the past, I want to gaze into the future. Vengeance cannot be the response for every reprehensible act. Today, we enter into this symposium, one of the few events that students, staff, faculty, and members of the larger Westminster and Fulton communities share space and ideas for an extended period of time. I respectfully ask the members of the audience to act with a sense of community. We, all of us here, depend on others for success. As I noted above, the size and scope of the Hancock Symposium requires the support of students, various staff offices, and many faculty. The success of every Greek organization, team, or study group in class depends not on championing division, but serving the greater good. Together, we can weather any storm. As Abraham Lincoln taught us in his first inaugural address, we are not enemies, but friends. We must not be enemies. Though passion may have strained, it must not break our bonds of affection. Excuse me just a moment. It is evident from our highest documents that the pursuit of justice is patriotic. The Declaration of Independence notes that the British brethren of the Founding Fathers had been, and I quote, deaf to the voice of justice. The Constitution was written and adopted in part, according to the preamble, to establish justice. And the Pledge of Allegiance closes, noting the nation's commitment to ensuring justice for all. How should we consider justice? There are many, often competing definitions. Let me offer but a broad few thoughts. The foundation of justice must be love. Justice is not sought in the shadow, nor is it carried out under the cover of night. Recently, I have been thinking about a simple idea. My single favorite yard sign in Fulton, perhaps anywhere, relays the following simple yet profound message: brighten your corner of the world. The idea of simply brightening the lives of those in closest proximity to you is a simple one, but I will not pretend it is easily and consistently put into practice. Yet, if your actions simply brighten the small portion of the world you are in, perhaps this is justice, or at least the seed of justice. So I invite you to read to an elementary student or to someone who is infirmed, to greet someone you do not know with a smile, or to make someone in your hallway feel seen, heard, and protected. Over the next 2 days, we are charged with promoting a civil discussion about the single most important issue of our time: acting in a just manner. Important questions about an issue with this complexity will not lead to easy answers and may lead to difficult but critical dialogue. As the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. With all due respect to him, he was only half right. The arc does not bend itself toward justice. It requires people of action, moral fortitude, and tenacity to bend it. The 20th Annual Hancock Symposium at Westminster College is proud to host more than 20 experts who seek and promote justice. But please understand that these speakers will opine, teach, and occasionally challenge. Importantly, though, I ask that you remain respectful of all of the speakers all of the time. Take advantage of the collective expertise of these honored guests and be inspired to follow in their footsteps, or to work in careers where you can improve upon their policies and actions. Welcome to the Hancock Symposium, where we embrace the foundational ideals of justice and its purpose in our lives, in our workplaces, in our institutions, and in our nation. Let us come together to make the enduring promise of our founders come true, that we may build a more perfect union and ensure justice for all. Thank you. I now invite Provost Ingrid Alinka to the stage.
Good morning, everyone, students, faculty, honored guests, and friends of Westminster College. Welcome to the 20th Annual Hancock Symposium and the 60th John Findlay Green Foundation Lecture, which will take place tomorrow. This year's theme, Justice for All, could not be more timely. Over the next 2 days, we will explore fundamental questions about fairness, law, and civic responsibility. We are especially honored to welcome the scholars, practitioners, and public servants joining us as speakers. Their work spans law, public policy, social justice, and community engagement. I hope each of you will take full advantage of their expertise, not just by listening, but by asking questions, making connections, and engaging in deep reflection. This year's schedule is rich and offers many opportunities to learn from diverse perspectives and to think about what justice truly means. I encourage you to embrace both the formal sessions and the informal interactions that a symposium like this makes possible. Finally, I want to thank our faculty, organizers, staff, and students whose efforts made this event possible. Our speakers for sharing their ideas and experiences, and all of you for being here and participating in this important conversation. It is now my honor to introduce Judge Mark D. Pfeiffer, our distinguished speaker for the first plenary session of the Hancock Symposium. Judge Mark Pfeiffer is a 1989 graduate of Westminster College with a degree in accounting and earned his law degree from the University of Missouri, Columbia in 1991. He has served on the Missouri Court of Appeals, Western District since 2009, including a term as Chief Judge from 2016 to 2018. Before his appointment to the bench, Judge Pfeiffer began his legal career at the Springfield firm Farrington & Curtis, and later returned to Columbia to co-found the law firm of Bly & Pfeiffer, where for 14 years he built a reputation as a trial and appellate attorney in civil litigation. In addition to his judicial duties, he has taught as an adjunct faculty member at Westminster College since 2010 and has been deeply involved in professional and civic leadership. He has held leadership roles in the Missouri Bar, Boone County Bar Association, and Kansas City Metropolitan Bar Association. He is a judicial fellow of the National Board of Trial Advocacy, and he currently serves as president of the Council of Chief Judges of State Courts of Appeal and chairs the Missouri Appellate Court Education Committee. Born in Jacksonville, Illinois, Judge Pfeiffer is also active in his church and local youth sports. He and his wife, Tracy Wright, also a member of the Westminster class of 1989, live in Columbia and have 2 sons. It is my pleasure to invite Judge Pfeiffer to the podium.
Thank you. It's my honor and privilege to be here. I want to dedicate this address to my current students of the American Jurisprudence class that I teach here at Westminster College. I have 15 really articulate and intelligent students. We have started our conversation this semester, and I can't wait to continue our conversation throughout the rest of this semester. If you have not taken a course with Professor Tobias, as he likes to be referred to, you should. He will challenge you, he will make you think, he will make you consider how other people think, and you will be better prepared to do whatever career it is you want to pursue after you have been challenged the way I know my friend Tobias likes to challenge his students. All right, let's get on with it. Justice for all, with a question mark. I submit to you that if we are to have justice for all, we must have participation by all. Hold that thought. I'm here at Westminster College, and I'm mindful of the fact that I don't think you can give a speech at Westminster College unless you have at least one quotation from Sir Winston Churchill. And let me just tell you something. I spoke at commencement several years ago, and I had to turn in my commencement address. And when there was a quote from Churchill, let me tell you, it gets fact-checked. It gets quote-checked. Because there are lots of quotes that are attributed to Sir Winston Churchill that might not necessarily be his original thought. And I'm gonna use one of those right now. Attributed to Churchill, although I will give you the complete quote and the context in which he used it, is this: democracy is the worst form of government, except for all the rest. Hold that thought. Well, of course, Sir Winston Churchill. But I want to introduce you to another philosopher in my life, another person who has provided wisdom to me, and I am embarrassed to admit that I don't think I really truly embraced or understood or challenged myself to understand the wisdom that he was trying to convey to me when I was a kid, and that's my father. He's the one in the middle. That picture was taken when, as I like to say, I'm on the right. This goes hand in hand with my comment that there's a skinny man inside all of us. My skinny man was back around that time frame, which was right about the time that I had graduated from Westminster College, had gotten married to my wife now of 36 years, but I was in law school, had not yet graduated from law school, and did not know at the time that this picture was taken that my father would shortly thereafter be diagnosed with cancer and would not live that much longer. But what I remember about my father are many things, but a couple of the pieces of wisdom that he did pass on to me was this. Each of us will eventually hit a crossroads. And in that crossroads, we have to make a decision to serve self, to serve our egos, or we will choose to serve others. And he looked at me and he said, choose wisely. The other thing he told me, and it's always stuck with me, is that if you can find something that you're good at, but that you also have a passion for, going to work will never be a job. And I have to tell you that in the practice of law and in the opportunity that I've had since 2009 to be a judge at the Missouri Court of Appeals, I feel like I've never had a job. I feel like I have to pinch myself every time I drive to Kansas City and have an opportunity to spend time with my colleagues at the Missouri Court of Appeals. Now the entire quote from Churchill. So let me go back. My father's name was Cal Pfeiffer, and you'll meet the next generation Cal in one of the future slides that will come in this address. What Churchill said was many forms of government have been tried and will be tried in this world of sin and woe. No one pretends that democracy is perfect or all-wise. Indeed, it has been said, though he didn't tell us who said it, we think it was a friend of his from the British Parliament that he served with. It has been said that democracy is the worst form of government, except for all those other forms that have been tried from time to time. So the point, I think, is simple, and it is relevant and applicable to our discussion today. His point was, in any form of democracy, human beings are at the forefront of leadership of that form of government, and human beings are flawed. Human beings make mistakes. So the sin part is human beings are guilty of self-pride. Human beings are guilty of a lust for power. Human beings care more about themselves sometimes than they do about the people that they are serving or hope to serve. So there's the sin part of it. Woe, I think, is the part of it where human beings think, I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I can't make a difference because I don't have enough. And that's a problem. And that's not acceptable. But I think his point was also that in a dictatorship where we have a human being that we know is flawed, we're stuck with it. We don't have a checks and balances system. Whereas in democracy, we do. We know that we have a checks and balances system. And I submit to you that the same is true of our system of justice. At least that is the intent of our system of justice. And I will tell you that I know of no other system of justice that has a right to a trial by jury in the vast majority. There are some exceptions, but in the vast majority of lawsuits, you are entitled to a jury of your peers. You are entitled to a jury of your neighbors in your community. What a concept that 12 people who might be educated, might not be educated, might be a doctor, might be a plumber, might be an accountant, might be fill in the blank, any number of professions that are out there. My father sold fertilizer for an agricultural company. My mother was a preschool teacher. My wife was a social studies teacher in junior high and high school. This concept that 12 members of your community get to serve on a jury, you get to have them serve on a jury, and they will decide the fate of your litigation. Participation by all. How many of you don't need to raise your hands, have ever gotten a jury service form in the mail, or your parents maybe have, or your friends or your colleagues have, and the first response is, oh no, oh man, oh no, oh gosh, I'm busy. I got too many things going on. Or if we're being honest with ourselves, I'm a little too important to go serve on a jury. If we are to have justice for all, we must have participation by all. I tell people when they contact me, my friends, I say, look, I didn't even get my wife out of jury service. And she has served on multiple juries in the past. And she says the same thing that everyone says to me once they serve on a jury. I felt like I was participating in democracy. I felt more alive as a citizen of this country when I served in the capacity of serving on a jury. Those that want to get out of jury service, I often say to them, what would you think? What would you expect? What would you want if it was you that were the litigant and not the one receiving the summons to serve on a jury? Would you be satisfied that people that might have some of the same characteristics or qualities, or maybe are involved in the same sort of business functions that you might be involved in, would you be happy that they're trying to get out of jury service versus serving on a jury? I'm told that a trial judge in Texas, and I say this because I have both of my sons and their families live in Texas now, and one of their good friends was summoned to jury service, and he said that what the trial judge said was, look, don't think of it as jury service, think of it as jury privilege. You are a citizen of this country. It is a privilege that we have this system of justice, that we don't have to feel like some dictator judge is the one that's making the decision in my life. It's going to be people that are in my community that are going to make that decision. It is, in fact, a privilege. And we're going to talk about judges, and we're going to talk about how certain judges in the state of Missouri become judges. But in this participation by all category, I want to suggest to you that, again, it's not just the judges. It is also the community of people that are serving every courtroom in this country, because we have to get better at communication with those that we serve. It's not enough that we are giving collective thought to declaring the law in a conscientious way that serves the Constitution. We have to provide a service to the communities that we serve in a way that justice feels accessible. I'm so proud of the clerk's office at our courthouse when we went through the pandemic not that long ago. Our IT staff, our clerk's office, none of whom, or some, have a law degree, but most of whom do not, immediately jumped into action and said, we can't just close the court because we have a pandemic on our hands. We have to figure out a way to continue serving and to continue resolving disputes at the Court of Appeals where I'm at. And let me back up. My court is not the court where we have the trial, or we have the jury, or we have the witnesses, or the evidence is presented. My court is the court that litigants can come to when they believe that an error of law was made during the trial proceedings. So we are typically dealing with lawyers that are drafting appellate briefs. We are doing research with our team of judges and law clerks who are full-time attorneys, and they know when I interview them and I hire them that their first rule of thumb and their first job description is that they have to help prevent me from screwing up the law. They have to be smarter than me. They have to give me good research when we're working on the various issues. But what we did was we figured out a way, like the rest of society, there is this thing called Zoom or WebEx or Microsoft Teams or whatever it may be. We figured out how to have court by way of a Zoom meeting, which worked pretty well, I think, in our setting, because again, You've got 3 judges. We have 11 at our court. I'll show you a picture of our court here shortly. We split into groups of 3 to hear the appeals. And then you've got the lawyers from both sides that are on that Zoom oral argument, and it worked pretty well. We did not slow down. We continued writing opinions. We continued handing down opinions. But it wouldn't have happened without the participation by our clerk's office team. Wouldn't have happened without the participation and investment from our information technologies team. We have to think outside the box. We have to figure out ways to communicate better. There are individuals who, because of various disabilities, have difficulty reading the opinions that we write and we put into paper form. So we have changed our rules. And instead of using a smaller font size, we use a larger font size, so that when somebody pulls up one of our opinions and might have difficulty visually reading an opinion, they have a better opportunity to do so. There are programs for those that are deaf that they can actually, that they have the ability to hear an opinion that is written instead of having to read it. And we have created programs where, instead of using right justification, which I always thought was pretty, what we have discovered is that that's not very accessible to somebody who is using a function where they're going to have that opinion read to them. So we use the left justify instead of the right justify. Little things like that that don't seem like much are part and parcel of participation by all, communicating, reaching those people that we serve. We need lawyers who are committed to serving their clients. And I will tell you that I was very blessed to have this guy, Wally Bly. Dr. Alinka referred to Bly and Pfeiffer. He was my partner for many years before I went to the bench, before I went to the Court of Appeals. We were a 2-man team, and we went to trial together, and one lawyer would typically be lead counsel and the other would carry the water bucket. And we were all about supporting each other in every case that we had. And he taught me that every one of our clients has to feel like they are the most important client that we have. How do we do that? It's not an easy profession, I'll tell you. And it was hard on my family, because the truth of the matter is that when you invest yourself in somebody else's life, and sometimes it might be a tragedy that they are dealing with, it is not, I do not think that you are capable of having a 9-to-5 job. I think you take those worries, you take those frustrations, you take those tragedies, you take those stories home with you, and it's hard to leave them at the shop, if you will. So it's tough. If you want to go to law school, if you want to carry somebody else's torch, it is a challenge. And we have to have lawyers who are committed to carrying those torches, that are committed to understanding that it is not a means to an end. These clients become members of our family. We have to treat them like members of our family. They should feel like members of our family from start to finish of their case and long after their case is over. So it's hard, but my law partner for many years, he taught me what that looks like. He didn't tell me, he showed me. And I will forever be grateful to him for showing me how to invest, how to participate in this system of justice the right way. What is our checks and balances system? Why is it that when there is an evolving third world country and they are looking at creating their system of justice, why do they look to our system of justice? Well, I think in part it is the jury system that I talked to you about. But I also think, much like democracy, it is because we have the checks and balances system. I was talking earlier with President Lofi about a judge who specially sat with our court who is not an appellate judge. We had a docket here at Westminster, but one of our judges had a conflict of interest on one of the cases, and so the Supreme Court specially assigned a trial judge from the Boone County area, Columbia, Missouri. His name is Judge Jeff Harris, and he came and he sat with us. And I have to tell you that I have so much respect for the work that trial judges do. I don't think that the face of the judicial branch should be the 9 justices that sit at the Supreme Court of the United States. But I think in a lot of ways it is. And I think in a lot of ways, unfortunately, for that institution, for that court, they do not have particularly outstanding favorability ratings right now. But here's what I want to tell you about that, and it's why I want to bring it back to the trial judges in our state and in every state. In 2024, 75 million lawsuits were brought to a conclusion in the state court system that we have in our country. We have a state court system and we have a federal court system in our country. The state court system is largely dealing with, oh gosh, I got a traffic ticket, so I got to go to court. Oh gosh, I have a dispute with my next door neighbor over a boundary, over a fence. I've got to go to court. Oh, unfortunately, things have not worked out in my marriage, and so I need to go to a court for a dissolution, for a divorce. And that court is going to have to decide child custody issues as well as maintenance issues. Or I've got a business dispute or a contract dispute. Or I have been charged with a crime. Most crimes are crimes that involve a state statute, not a federal statute. 75 million cases were processed through the state court system. These are the cases that impact your life day in and day out. In the federal court system in 2024, 500,000 cases were processed to conclusion in 2024. Now do the math, 75 million versus 500,000. So over 99% of cases are coming through the state court system arm. And that is the arm of justice in the state of Missouri that I am involved with. The federal court system is going to be limited to cases that involve federal questions in some instances. Sometimes it will be a lawsuit that involves residents of different states. One is a resident of Missouri, one is a resident of Illinois. And when you have that non-residency, sometimes that lawsuit is brought in federal court because it's interstate litigation. Sometimes it will involve drug trafficking or sex trafficking, and those are usually crimes that are crossing state lines. Those are going to end up in federal court. But less than 1% of all lawsuits processed through the federal court system. My friend Jeff Harris, Judge Harris, who serves on the Circuit Court of Boone County, who came and sat with us, I think he felt like, man, I'm taking like a day off. You guys hear a total of 4 cases, and we'll be back here in November to hear oral argument again here at Westminster College. And he said, oh gosh, you heard oral argument on four whole cases. That might be the first 30 minutes of my docket in the morning in the Circuit Court of Boone County. And it's the truth. The volume of cases that our trial judges are hearing every single day, they are the face of justice. And when I talk to them about some of the things that we're going to talk about today, when I talk to them, I say, you know, your job is harder in this instance. If I have a bad day as an appellate judge, I only wear this black robe to hear cases. We stack up oral argument cases to where on any given Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, there is probably some division of our court that is hearing oral arguments. But I myself might only be participating in oral arguments 2 or maybe 3 days per month. So if I have a bad day, hopefully it's one of the other 27 days of the month when I happen to be working from my office with my law clerks, and I might say something grumpy to one of my law clerks, but hopefully I'm not saying something grumpy to lawyers or litigants that are in our courtroom. When a trial judge is handling a docket that might have 50 cases on it, and it might be initial appearances, if they are having a bad day, and judges are human beings and they have bad days, if they're having a bad day and they say something rude to a litigant or that litigant's attorney, well, then you've got a courtroom of other litigants and attorneys who just feel like, this is justice? It doesn't feel like justice to me. It feels like some sort of a grumpy dictator to me. And so it's hard. I think it's hard for trial judges. They've got to get their game face on behalf of the judicial branch every single day. And so I have so much respect for the trial judges of our court. And I have to say that because so many times I'm reversing them. And they say, yeah, we didn't feel like you had as much respect for us when you wrote an opinion that reversed what we did. How do we, in our state, how do we have judges that come to my court, to the Missouri Court of Appeals, or to the Missouri Supreme Court? And in some instances, quite frankly, it is the courtrooms that are in larger cities. City of St. Louis, City of Kansas City, St. Louis County, Jackson County, Springfield, Missouri, Greene County. Those are maybe the largest cities in our state, and within those counties, they are part of what I'm going to identify as Missouri's nonpartisan plan. And I've got a poster that sits outside of our courtroom that's up here, and I'm not even sure if those of you that are in the front row can see that, and so hopefully I've got some slides that will help us. This, by the way, is my court. And I would tell you, of those 11 judges that serve on the Missouri Court of Appeals Western District. So we have a Missouri Supreme Court that is the highest court in the state of Missouri. On that court, there are 7 judges. The Missouri Court of Appeals, the Intermediate Court of Appeals, is right beneath the Missouri Supreme Court. There are 32 judges on the Missouri Court of Appeals, but we split into geographic districts, so that on the eastern side of the state, there is a courthouse in downtown St. Louis that houses the eastern district of our Missouri Court of Appeals. And even though it is the smallest land mass, if you will, it also has the city of St. Louis, which is the largest population in the state of Missouri for any one city. So they have 14 judges on the eastern district of our Missouri Court of Appeals. Our court is the Western District, so think of the western part of Missouri, all the way up to the north, almost down to the south, but not quite all the way down to the south. We have 45 counties. Our court has 11 judges that sit on our court. And again, we split into groups of 3 to hear the appeals. Then we have the Southern District, which sits in Springfield, and it has 7 judges. It's the largest landmass, but the lowest population. So there are only 7 judges that sit on that court. 14, 11, 7. 32 total judges on the Missouri Court of Appeals. We are reviewing the work, if you will, of those 45 counties in the Western District of Missouri. I can tell you right now, as I look at the members of my court, very few of the members of my court would be members of our court were it not for what is affectionately referred to in this country as the Missouri Plan. The plan that I am about to describe to you is a plan that came into effect by Missouri voters, voted into the Constitution in 1940, and it was in direct response to this notion that we are not getting justice for all. What we are getting is justice for a guy named Tom Pendergast, who was a mob boss in the Kansas City area. Most judges, all judges at that time, were elected in partisan elections. And if you wanted to get elected, you had better be on Tom Pendergast's good side. Now, I don't know exactly how you get on a mob boss's good side, but I can't think of many good ways that you get on the good side of a Tom Pendergast. They called him Boss Tom. And quite frankly, he had statewide influence. He had statewide influence on judges that were getting elected to the Missouri Supreme Court, not just the Missouri Court of Appeals, and certainly not just the trial judges in the Kansas City area. And a group of lawyers, participation by all. If we are to have justice for all, we need participation by all. A group of lawyers from across the state said enough is enough. We're going to do what needs to be done to get a measure on the ballot for Missouri citizens to vote on whether or not we want to have contested elections for every single judge in this state, including the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeals, or if we want to remove mob bosses from the appointment of our judges. If we want to remove as much as we can, it's impossible to remove it entirely, but remove as much as we can politics. I showed you a picture earlier that included a picture of my wife. She still looks that amazing. I am still, yearning after that skinny man that used to be around back in those early days. Though it may not have been in our wedding vows, it was part of our engagement vows, and that was this: you are not going to be a politician if I am going to marry you. And what I can tell you after serving or after having a marriage that has lasted 36 years, I can tell you this: I've never broken that promise to her, because I have never had to be a politician to become a judge, and I have certainly never had to be a politician when it comes to crafting opinion to declare the law. There are appointments on our court that have been appointed by Republican governors, those that have been appointed by Democrat governors. I was appointed by a Democrat governor that you're going to hear from tomorrow, clearly the smartest governor we've ever had in state history. But the only politician that I ever worked for at one point in time was a Republican United States Senator from the state of Missouri. I think that Governor Nixon, I think that Governor Parsons, those two have probably, in this plan that I'm going to explain to you how it works, have appointed the vast majority of judges that sit in the courts that are impacted by the Missouri plan. They come from different political parties, right? But I promise you this: if those two were to sit down across the table from one another, they would largely agree upon every judicial appointment that has been made, because I believe they set politics aside when they appoint judges, because what they want is the best, and that's it, because justice can't be bargained for. We have to have those judges that we think are most committed to justice for all, not just for some. Here's how the plan works. So for the appellate courts in the state of Missouri, so we've got 32 judges at the Intermediate Court of Appeals, which is what I'm on, 7 judges at the Missouri Supreme Court. Here's how the plan works for them. The chair of a commission, we have a commission that reviews all of the applicants, and this commission is eventually going to give a list of 3 names to the governor. And at that point, listen, the governor, he or she gets to appoint whoever they want to appoint at that point. But the idea is that this commission is whittling the field down to governor-proof, the list, so that no matter who the governor appoints, it will be somebody that this commission believes is qualified. How does it work? The chair of the commission is the Chief Justice of the Missouri Supreme Court. There is a lawyer member from the Western District, the Eastern District, and the Southern District that is voted upon, that is elected by the lawyers in that area, in that district. And then the governor himself or herself gets to appoint 3 lay people that do not have law degrees to sit from both the West, the East, and the South. So there's 7 people that serve on this commission. And by the way, these are staggered terms. So no governor, for example, gets to become governor and then immediately appoint 3 lay people to do his or her bidding. It's staggered terms so that you would have to be in the third year of your second term before, as a governor, you are appointing the third layperson to serve on that commission. Eventually, that commission gives the governor 3 names. The governor appoints one of those 3. In 2009, I was fortunate enough for the commission to give my name to Governor Nixon along with 2 others, one of whom I presently serve with. She would subsequently get appointed to the Court of Appeals and is absolutely one of my best friends and is a fantastic jurist. What I would submit to you is this. This Court of Appeals, it wouldn't look like that. It would be 11 different people. There might be 1 or 2 that would be willing to be a politician, but not 11 that would have put their name in the hat to be a politician to get elected as a judge. Our court came into existence, the Western District of the Missouri Court of Appeals came into existence in 1885. When I came on the court in 2009, so do the math on that. So 100 and what? That was 124 years into our court's history. I was only the 55th judge to serve on that court. But I will tell you this, our court came into existence in 1885, and were it not for the Missouri Plan, it would have been much later than this. It is embarrassing to admit that the first female that served on the Missouri Court of Appeals, not just our district, but in the entire appellate court system, was not until 1985. And if she were here right now, I know she would say this because she is my friend. One of her daughters grew up in Columbia. This particular judge, Ann Covington, she was a mother of children, and one of those children were my friends. So I've known her practically my whole life growing up in Columbia, and I know that she would say this. She never would have been a judge were it not for this nonpartisan plan. And who knows, would it have been 1985? Would it have been 1995? I can't believe we live in a world where I can look at the resume of Judge Perlman, who is another speaker that is going to be here and was here last night. And I saw on her resume that she was one of the first females to graduate from her class at Yale. 1971? We talked about law clerks. This is one of my law clerks. He is now a federal prosecutor down on the Texas border for the United States Attorney's Office. He wanted me to administer the oath of office to him when he became an attorney. You will see in the background one of the first black judges at our court. And he wanted to have the oath of office administered to him with Judge Newton, one of my dear, dear friends who has since retired from our court, in the background. That is another one of she was a long-term law clerk for me. Not only did she have to be smarter than me, but I always felt like I had to cuss a little bit less when I was around her because, as you can see, she's an ordained minister now as well. And so I had to watch my language around her. So those were better days for me. This is Judge Newton that I was telling you about. This judge, as a mentor to me, he is a judge that taught me that it's not enough to be tireless about what you're doing. This is a judge who, it is remarkable to me, he grew up in an American world where he knew what it meant to go to a gas station and have to drink at a different water fountain than other people that did not share his skin color drank from. We read that in history books and we say, gosh, that was a long, 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 long time ago. No, this is one of my colleagues. This is one of my dear friends. And it was a part of his life. And yet, what he said to me was, you have to learn to be a judge. You have to learn to administer justice in a way that is done with empathy and respect. I will forever be grateful to him. This is another one of my judge mentors from the Missouri Court of Appeals, who again would never have been at our court were it not for the nonpartisan plan. Judge Welsh, what he said to me was, it's not enough to be a good writer. It's not enough to be literate. You have to write in a way that is useful. He was a trial judge for many, many years before he came to the Court of Appeals. And he said, look, when I look at some of your work, and I look at it all the time because you bring it into me and ask me to look at it, I see really great writing. He had a daughter, by the way, that attended Westminster College and is an attorney. And he said, I know you got a great liberal arts education at Westminster College. Now I want you to remember what common sense looks like again. I want you to write in a way that a trial judge can see this and rip this page out and think to themselves, well, this is useful. I can use this. He taught me that. He wouldn't have been there were it not for the Missouri Plan. And again, why do we call it the Missouri Plan? We were the first state to do this. Every other state in the country with partisan elections elected their judges. After Missouri did this, other states followed suit. Not every state, but most states. I believe at this point over 35 states in our country use some version of the nonpartisan plan. I will ask my students later this semester to write about the nonpartisan plan. Keep it, scrap it, change it, modify it, because I promise you this, the other states that have adopted our plan, they have tweaked it. They have all tweaked it. Sometimes they've tweaked it in a way where there's more people that serve on the commission than just 7. Sometimes they've tweaked it in a way where they've said the governor gets to have one veto. The governor gets to say no to the panel that you give, and you have to go back and give the governor 3 different names. Some states say, well, you've got to give the governor more choices than 3, 5. They've tweaked it, but the idea is that we're trying to remove politics. I was speaking at a law school on the East Coast that had asked me to come to a moot court competition they were having. One of the judges that was there was a judge from the Texas Supreme Court. Another judge was a recently appointed judge. He was filling out a term in the state of Wisconsin. Some of you may have heard that in the state of Wisconsin, there was a big battle over who would get elected as Chief Justice, and they do contested elections. There was more money spent on political campaign ads for that election than the governor of the state of Wisconsin. That's how political it feels like that court has become. But he was all about it. He thought it was great, the whole concept that Wisconsin had contested elections, and I was out to dinner with him and this judge from the Texas Supreme Court, and he looked at the judge from the Texas Supreme Court and said, that Missouri plan, what a load. I mean, that's just awful. And the Texas Supreme Court judge said, have you lost your mind? That is the best method of selecting judges. Now, that is a judge who became he wasn't Chief Justice, but he became a 3-term justice of the Texas Supreme Court by way of contested election. And he said, do you know how awful it is and how awful I feel that I take 2 weeks off after every election cycle, and after that 2 weeks, I spend 2 days every week on the phone soliciting campaign contributions, going to campaign functions, trying to get elected again for the next term when I will run for re-election. I have to take pictures because I am in a certain district of the state of Texas. I have to look like I'm the most conservative thing you've ever seen in your life. And so I have to have an Instagram and a Facebook and a fill in the blank with all of the social media, and I got to have pictures with the most conservative politicians in the world. Because if I don't, I won't get elected. And I said, and by the way, how does that feel when one of the lawyers or one of the litigants comes in and they did not support your campaign? Or worse yet, they supported the other candidate. Do you take a conflict of interest in those situations? He goes, well, we would all be taking conflicts of interest on every case. if we did that. So no, we don't. Does that feel like justice? This is, in my opinion, Missouri's contribution to a form of justice at the judicial level that is designed to create justice for the many, not for the few. And that's why I am so proud of that system of justice. I mentioned earlier Governor Nixon, who will speak tomorrow. When he appointed me, my relationship with Governor Nixon, frankly, was not so much political, as I've already explained. But I knew him when he was a very young politician, and I was a student here at Westminster College. And we just had a number of conversations. I never worked for him. He was the Attorney General for many years for the state of Missouri. I was the first judge that he appointed under the Missouri nonpartisan plan to the Missouri Court of Appeals in 2009. He had gotten elected in 2008, and I still remember what he told me: be committed to the law and the law alone. Your commitment is not to me, it is not to the Republican Party or the Democratic Party or to any other lobbying effort. You are committed to the law, to the Constitution. That is a must. This is my last opportunity to get on a soapbox with you before you become a judge and wear a black robe. But that is what is most important to me. I want you to be a judge that builds consensus through collegiality. I am sick and tired of seeing stories of judges fighting with one another. It is okay to disagree. It is not okay to be disagreeable about how you debate and how publicly you are disagreeable with your colleagues. I want you to build consensus on that court. I want you to develop a sense of collegiality at that court. I think justice delayed is justice denied, is what Governor Nixon said to me. Now, I get it. Some of the cases that you'll have, they're hard, they're deep, they're important. You will have lots of debate on your court. I get it, but I'll bet you this: 9 out of 10 of those cases, if you work hard, you can deliver that justice more efficiently than I think your court has been doing. Now, I won't take credit for it, but I will say this, that after Governor Nixon had the opportunity to appoint a number of judges on our court 10 to 15 years ago, there was about a 6-month turnaround from the time that that oral argument takes place to the time the opinion was handed down. When I came on the court in 2009, it was 3 months. Our present hand-down efficiency rate is that we typically will provide the parties an opinion that declares the law in their appeal within 30 days after the date of submission. These are the things that were important to Governor Nixon, a Democrat, and these are the same things that were important to Governor Parson, a Republican, when he appointed his judges. How do I know? Because I've asked him. What did Governor Parson say to you after he appointed you? We have governors in the state of Missouri. The reason the Missouri plan, the nonpartisan plan, has stood the test of time is because the governors that ultimately get to make the call, they set politics aside. They know that the foundation of this plan is to try to remove politics. They do their best to put who they think is the best on these courts. The last thing that Governor Nixon said to me was, I don't want you to live in an ivory tower. I don't want anybody to not have any idea who Judge Pfeiffer is. I want you to go coach youth baseball, because I know you got sons that like to play baseball. Coach youth baseball. I want you to go back to your alma mater when you have an opportunity and give back to them. Maybe teach a course at Westminster College. I want you to participate in the bar associations that are local in Kansas City, in Boone County, the State Bar Association. I want you to participate in the lives of the people that you serve. One of my favorite things to do is to officiate weddings. This is after I got to officiate the wedding of one of my oldest son's best friends that he grew up playing youth baseball with. This is another wedding that I got to officiate, and the young man there, he was the All-American catcher that played ahead of my son who never got off the bench, but this was his best friend. And so it was just such a wonderful experience to be a part of his life. These are two of my former students from Westminster College. They took the American Jurisprudence class, Katie and Andrew. Katie is a lawyer, Andrew is an accountant. They took my class at separate times, at different times, and having the opportunity to officiate their wedding was one of the crown jewels of the experiences that I have gotten to have as a judge. And now, of course, I have to tell you about my dog. So it was mentioned earlier that I had the opportunity to be the president of the Council of Chief Judges of State Courts of Appeal. That is an organization that brings together all of the chief judges from all of the courts of appeal from the entire country. And when it was my turn to serve as president, these were the words that I delivered to them, and it has led to many conversations between many of those chief judges in that organization, and it has led to many conversations amongst my fellow judges in the state of Missouri. My father-in-law died earlier this year, and to make matters worse, so did my favorite dog of all time. I get it. Those two events are hardly comparable to one another, but they both left lasting impressions on me. Given my father's death at a young age, my father-in-law was much more of a father figure to me than anything else. And my black and tan coonhound was plainly and simply one of the best exemplars of true friendship I've ever experienced. The common thread, placing the needs of others before self, truly serving others and not one's ego. My father-in-law's nickname was Bunky. I mean, you got to really dislike your birth name to embrace a nickname like that, eh? Well, Bunky was quite accomplished. I won't recite all of his leadership positions because it would take up too much paper, but among his career experiences, Bunky was the president of the Missouri Bar Association, the general counsel of the University of Missouri System, 4 campuses in the state, including the flagship institution in Columbia. Bunky argued and won an important administrative law appeal before the Supreme Court of the United States in the 70s, and he was the president of the National Association of College and University Attorneys. In short, Bunky was a powerful and iconic presence in the legal profession for the state of Missouri, yet to me, he was the person I could turn to for life advice, and he would always listen to me before he spoke. To me, Bunky was more concerned about helping me and many others in my career than he was his own career. To me, Bunky was the legendary lawyer who could have scoffed at my mistakes, but instead he preferred to find the good in me and my many shortcomings. Oh, and to my 2 sons, Bunky was the one who taught them how to cuss. My black and tan Coonie, Daniel Boone, Boone for short, chose me as his person. If you've met my wife, you would understand why all of our pets tend to choose her over me, and I don't blame them. But Boone and I had a special bond. Boone was a huge 100-plus pound beast of a dog who literally had the biggest, kindest, and warmest heart. His paws were pretty big, too. There's something about meeting anything or anyone that is literally joyous every time you come home from work. And Boone was that presence for me. No matter how bad my day had been, Boone would treat me like a hero. Boone always brought a smile to my face, a feeling of friendship and love to my heart. And he was always, well, just there. I wonder, wouldn't we all do well as chief judges and perhaps spouses, parents, friends, to become better at active listening with our colleagues, to choose to place the needs of others over self, to be determined to find good in even the most difficult colleague, to express joy in developing sincere friendships inside and outside the courthouse with our colleagues, and to treat our colleagues like heroes, or at least someone we don't consider an enemy, to show up and be present in the lives of our colleagues. This year, at the time, it was 2023, while it has brought me sadness, it has also brought me joy for my first grandchild, a little girl named Victoria. Another picture with Boone. My father-in-law on the right. Here's Victoria. It has also brought me joy. For my first grandchild, a little girl named Victoria, has made her way into this world. It is also the year that a group of friends I admire, this Council of Chief Judges, is allowing me to serve the organization in the role of president for the next year. And in return, I promise that organization this: I will join the other officers and leaders of this organization to run the council's race marked out for us with as much perseverance and energy that I can muster. And to my granddaughter, I hope to pass along a few of the wonderful qualities her great-grandfather taught me, for I feel certain that I will also teach her to cuss. Now, all of those things are true. I think she is almost 2 years old, and she is beginning to mimic those things that I say, and I'm starting to get the wagging finger from my wife. But again, have you ever thought of listening as a verb that requires activity? I submit to you that if we want justice for all in our society, if we want to have a system of democracy that serves all of us, we have to be better at listening to one another. Gosh, we have, as Tobias mentioned, there is a rhetoric that has a lot of hate in it these days. And I think we have to fight that. And one of the ways that I think we fight hate rhetoric, because I think sometimes rhetoric then eventually turns into action. And I think one of the ways we fight that is we have to listen better. I carried a Brown in my wallet, and one of my sons asked if he could have it one day, and it goes like this: be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to become angry. I just think that if we want a better system of justice, we as the human beings that are participating in the system of justice have to try to be better people as we go along the way. All right, I started with a Churchill quote. I want to end with it. What Churchill followed up with when he talked about the word democracy is he said, how is that word democracy to be interpreted? Churchill said, my idea of it is that the plain, humble, common person, just the ordinary person who goes off to fight for his country when it is in trouble, goes to the poll at the appropriate time and puts his cross on the ballot paper showing the candidate he wishes to be elected to Parliament, that person is the foundation of democracy. If that is democracy, I salute it. I espouse it. I would work for it. So I modify Churchill's words a little bit, and I say, how is that word justice to be interpreted? My idea of it is that the plain, humble, common person, just the ordinary person, sees themselves as an active participant, an active servant in our system of justice. By serving your community as a juror in a jury trial, by lawyers serving the needs of a client, both litigational and emotional, and carrying that client's torch with passion and energy, by journalists and other members of the media, keeping a watchful eye on the judicial branch of government to hold our branch accountable to its requirement to serve our communities, our state, and our country, by ensuring an open, honest, and constitutionally committed system, by judges humbly serving the law, the Constitution, not the political winds that blow in and out of our lives. If that is justice, I salute it, I support it, I would work to serve it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Judge Pfeiffer. We have 10 minutes until the next session begins. So please join us. Please thank Judge Pfeiffer again. Sorry. The next session begins in about 10 minutes in the Church of the St. Mary the Virgin Aldermanbury. That way, if you don't know. We have Gloria Ladson Billings, who will be presenting Just Justice. And in the Coulter Science Center Lecture Hall, 203, we have Paisley Curra, who will be presenting Sex as an Output of Governing. A couple of other things, just really quickly. We needed to make some changes to the program, and so this afternoon at 2:30, the following breakout sessions that are not already in your program as being in the Coulter Science Center will be located in the Coulter Science Center. Lisa Perlman will be in the lecture hall. Lisa Perlman will be in the lecture hall. Rodney Lyles will be in Coulter Science Center 138. That's Rodney Lyles in 138. And Allison Frisella will be in CSC 139. Okay? Thank you all for coming. I look forward to seeing you at either the church or the lecture hall. Thank you.